Hey everyone, welcome back to Dad Space, the podcast for dads by dads. And it's great to have another dad on here. Today we're going to talk about our dad journey, compare notes, and see what we can learn from each other, and maybe help you as you listen to the show on your journey as a dad, no matter where you're at. And just talking before we hit record, this is going to be interesting for my guest, talking about some of the things he doesn't normally talk about on podcasts, which is fun. Joel's here. Joel, welcome to Dad Space. So glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you, David. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here. I really appreciate you for having me. Thank you so much.
It's amazing. So now, for you those listening, Joel has been on many podcasts. So this is a gentleman who knows how to be a great guest, and I'm so thrilled to have him here. But again, we're going to talk about some stuff that you don't normally get to talk about as a guest on podcasts. So Joel, tell everybody, first of all, where you are in this great big world of ours.
I'm in New York, about an hour from what I believe is the greatest city in the world, Manhattan. And so, yeah, it's a great melting pot. You know, if you haven't been to the Statue of Liberty, if you haven't seen the Freedom Tower, Central Park, or been to a Broadway show, you got to get to Manhattan. So I'm biased. I live about less than an hour driving from Manhattan, and I live in Westchester, about an hour north. And I've been in and around Manhattan my whole life, except for about a year and a half when I lived in Switzerland.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. It's amazing. My wife and I have been to New York together and separately many times. And when she was in college, she was on the Staten Island ferry coming back from the Statue of Liberty, the last trip of the day. And as they boarded on walks, Sigourney Weaver, Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, after just finishing filming Ghostbusters. So she's standing beside Sigourney Weaver on the ferry, and Bill Murray's right in front of her telling jokes, cracking up jokes. I'm like, seriously? So we have a picture of her with Sigourney, and what an amazing experience for them to have that. So you just never know what's going to happen, right?
Yeah. When
you're there. Life is like, that whole city is like a big movie lot. I just love going there. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been walking around Manhattan, Upper East Side, Upper West Side, and just happened to walk in and out of a restaurant, and they're filming a movie, a TV show. It just Adam Sandler was just on the street, and you're like, what?
Yeah, just normal day.
Yeah.
Right? I love it. Okay, so Joel, tell us a little bit about your family. I'm interested to know, like, how many kids you have, how old are they? Let's get a little sense of your family.
So first of all, my company name, Salor Moore, is named after my daughters. So L-A-U-R for Lauren, M-O-R for Morgan. Nice. And they were just born yesterday, I swear. It feels like that. I remember coming out of Greenwich Hospital because I forgot something and having to rush home while my wife was in labor at the time, and thinking, okay, and it was snowing too, because so they were both born in February. Lauren, February 18th is my oldest daughter, and she turns 20, and Morgan is February 15th, and she's turning 18 and very shortly. So, yeah.
I can see a lot of pride on your face while we're talking about your girls, and that's exciting. I love hearing a dad as they smile, as they talk about their kids. That's a good sign right there. So take us back, Joel, to the very beginning. What kind of stuff were you nervous about as a dad, as you found out you're going to become a dad, as you're at the hospital and the reality sinks in that no longer is it just you and your partner? You're going to have this new life that's going to soak up a lot of your time and a lot of your energy. What kind of things did you wrestle with early on as a dad? Take us back there.
Yeah, great question. So I think the biggest concerns I had were, am I capable? Can I be a good role model for them? And, when I was growing up, there was, my parents were fighting a lot. There wasn't a lot of physical touch in terms of the five love languages. I don't know if you've read the
Oh
book.
yeah, I love that book. Yeah.
But yeah, so the five love languages, there wasn't a lot. So my number one love language is physical touch. Number two is words of affection, and didn't get a lot of that growing up. So I was cognizant of giving those love languages to my daughters, and was I, so that was one thought, as before they were born, am I going to be, am I qualified? Can I do this? Can I do a good enough job? Am I a good enough role model? How am I going to, like now I teach about how thoughts become things and how you can create your life. But back then, 20 years ago, I wasn't so cognizant of my thoughts, and I was thinking, am I going to screw up?
Yeah.
And what might I not do right? And thinking, as opposed to, I read this book last year called What If All Goes Right? And I was thinking about what if all goes wrong, and I think most people look at the downside, they're like, okay, how, am I going to be, can I do this? Okay. Am I going to be am I going to be able to change a diaper? And I going to be able to hold them properly so I don't, what if I drop them? Oh my God,
Yeah. Right.
So
Yeah.
those kinds of negative thoughts.
With everything you know now, though, Joel, like take me back in the hallway. You're going to pass each other yourself in the hallway. Scrubs are on. You're like freaking out and you're like, oh my gosh, you're heading down the hallway. You grab yourself by the shoulders. What are you saying to yourself as you pass yourself in the hallway? What's the
Everything's
message?
going to be okay. You're going to do a great job.
Yeah.
And stop worrying. Worry is negative future planning. Worry is negative future planning. So think about what you want to happen as opposed to what you don't want to happen. And you can create your life by just thinking those good thoughts. And think about how fun it's going to be and how enjoyable it's going to be and how much love you have to give. And they'll feel that.
There's a freedom in realizing that you do not know what you do not know. So you're not really accountable for what you don't know, but you need to work towards finding out and identifying those areas where you can be a better dad. So for you, what kind of resources did you lean on early on as a dad that kind of helped shape your journey? Was it a person, a resource, a book?
I read a lot. I'm a reader. I say readers are leaders. And so I
like
read
that.
a lot. And so I read, I don't remember the names of the books, but I read 3, 4, 5 books just to feel competent and as a dad, as a person that's going to have a child. How can you do the best you can? And so I read a few books leading up to the birth of my first child, Lauren.
And now that the kids are like late teens, early 20s, you're in a new stage now, at this part of your life. What are you excited about for their future, and what are you a little nervous about as a dad?
So one of the biggest lessons I've learned is letting go. And they're adults now, and so it's important to let them make their own decisions and be independent. And it's better. I found, I was very controlling in their early years. And I've learned, and their mom was too. And I feel at this point I can let go, and I'm not actually worried. I feel quite confident, and their souls chose me for a reason, and I've learned a lot from them in this lifetime already. I've learned about unconditional love. I've learned about letting go, and so they are on a really good path. Lauren is at Syracuse University. She's a sophomore. She already did a month abroad last summer, spent a month in Florence. She loves to travel, and she's decided she wants to do a semester abroad her junior year. And Morgan I thought I was smart. I did well on my SAT. I got good grades and went to a really good school, University of Rochester, and got a good job, but she blows me away.
Yeah.
And so, I didn't get any. Here in the US, you can get credits for college by taking advanced placement courses in high school. And I got 0 credits for college in high school. and she's already had 5. She's already gotten credits for 5 classes,
Wow.
and she's taking 3 more this senior year. So she could have credits for 8 classes in college and university before she even goes. And she's going to be a doctor, by the way. She's been saying since she was 6 years old that I want to be a baby doctor. And now it's, pediatrician. So it's pretty rare that you have somebody who knows what they want to do from the time they were 5 or 6 years old. She's quite
Wow.
special.
What kind of things from your recollection as a dad? You talked about being strict, and I found myself strict as a dad early on as well. What kind of things did you kind of change your mind about as a dad as you kind of grew through the years? Did you become, like you mentioned, less strict with your girls over time?
Well, controlling, meaning that if they asked me to do something, I would generally say no.
Yeah.
I wouldn't listen. I would just say no. And, as the years went on, listening more. And now it's, of course, no, yes. If, in fact, Lauren's going to Cancun next month for spring break with her high school friends. And to me, it was an absolute yes. Not even, she asked me, and I'm divorced, by the way. So she asked me and she asked her mom, and we both said yes. And so it's just a matter of, the investment in that trip, and turned out to be quite inexpensive for whatever reason. And so I had expectations of how much it was gonna, that investment in her spring break was gonna be, and it became much lower than that. And so anyway, those kinds of things where years ago, if she had asked for something to go to some event or to whatever it was, generally I would say no, and then she'd have to beg and plead and explain. And nowadays it's a yes. And I remember when I was working as a credit analyst at Swiss Re Insurance Company in Switzerland, my boss would tell me that my job was to say yes, but yes, it's, as a credit analyst, I was working on transactions where the idea was I was making sure that Swiss Re would get paid back for lending money to other companies.
Yeah.
And so the idea was to structure the transaction so that it could get done, so the company would make money, but put in protections so that we wouldn't lose money, even if we did the transaction. So it's the same idea here, right? It's say yes, but put in the protection so they're not going to get hurt. They're doing the smart things, giving them the advice that they need to make good decisions in not, maybe there are circumstances that come up, but they can make good decisions in those circumstances, and also limiting the probability that they get into those kinds of situations where there's a possibility of something going wrong.
The one thing when we talked earlier, we talked a little bit about just the kind of foundation we can help create for our kids around money. And I know that's kind of your thing for sure as an author. You've written about this, you help people with this. But I'm interested to get your perception on, maybe for a dad listening, their children are young. And if you and I could both rewind the clock, I'm sure there's many financial lessons we would love to have gone back to teach our kids, which could have served them better now. But for those dads listening with younger children, what kind of things can we build into our children as they're young to teach them financial responsibility, to lead them into a better financial future? Any words of wisdom you can share with a dad right now?
Plenty. So,
Yeah.
first of all, when I was growing up, we were told that's too expensive. We can't afford that. Money isn't growing trees. I got screamed at for leaving the light on in my room when we were leaving the house. Joel went out, a shareholder of Long Island Lighting Company, shut that light off. And all those words did not serve me. So my advice to my clients and anyone who's listening to this podcast is, instead of saying those words, say, it's not a priority for me right now. It's not a priority for me right now for you to buy that toy. That's whatever, how much it is, 100, 200, whatever it is. And so put that mentality in place so that they know that it's not that you can't, it's a choice that you're making.
Yeah.
To not buy them that particular material item. And I have a story in my last book, Infinite Love and Money, which I wrote with Molly Singh, who's a relationship coach. We had a whole chapter on your kids' money. And my idea is eventually I'm going to write a book on kids and money, my first book was called Mindful Money Management. So mindful money management for kids or mindful money management for teenagers. So we had a story. It was 4 years ago. Yeah, it was 4 years ago. So Lauren was 16. And during the pandemic, I took her to Newport, Rhode Island. And so we did a nice outdoor walk and the cliff walk. And then afterwards, she wanted to get a sweatshirt. So we went to a sweatshirt shop. And outside, they had their tees, right? The sweatshirts that most people are not going to purchase, but they were $19.
Yeah.
And then you go inside and there's the pricier sweatshirts. And so Lauren found one that she really liked that was $55 US. And I said to her that for me, that's not a priority for me right now for you to purchase that. But here's some options. One, we walk out and don't purchase anything. Two, you get one of the less pricey sweatshirts, maybe even the ones that are outside that are $19. Or we could share in the investment in this sweatshirt. And I will pay even more than the least expensive. I'll pay $25. And she was working at the time. And she had a bank account. She has a bank account. Yeah. And so she had money. So she said, okay, let's split it. And so she paid the 30, I paid the 25, and she walked out with something she wanted and a lesson.
It's a great lesson, right? I think as dads, that's something we can definitely teach our kids is how to value money, the other part of it. I know my kids, when they left the house, I have 3, when they left the house, my youngest really struggled with credit and understanding how that works and how it can come back to bite you if you don't understand it properly. And he kind of went a little bit too far into the credit world going, well, hey, I could just buy anything and pay for it later. And you're like, wait a minute, there's a lesson here. So talk a little bit about what would be good credit for our kids to understand and to participate in, and maybe some of the things that we should avoid when we look at credit.
So first of all, I want to distinguish between debit cards and credit cards.
Good.
And so a debit card you use and the cash comes out immediately. And the credit card, you can pay it in 30 days or longer with interest. Usually, so the financing charge or the interest charge can be 15%, 20%, even 30% or more in some cases. So a quick story, in 2020, also in 2020, so my youngest daughter at the time was 14. And a similar story, we went into we were at Cape May in New Jersey, and she wanted a sweatshirt. And we go into the sweatshirt place, and she also was working at the time. And she didn't even ask me, Dad, I want the sweatshirt. She just went in and said, I'm buying a sweatshirt. And she had her debit card with her. So she just bought it herself. I forget how much it was. 40, 50, I don't know how much it was. And we walk out of the shop and she got on her phone and she was so excited because she went onto her Chase JP Morgan Chase app
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
saw that the money was out instantaneously. She's like, look, Dad, the money's gone already. And I'm like, Morgan, that's not a good thing. So first of all, yeah, debit cards, the money's out, it's gone immediately. Whereas credit card, you have some time to pay it. The issue is if you're not paying it each month, there's a charge. And so in this book, actually, the 9 Money Rules, I asked the question, is credit good or bad? And there is a good use of credit. And that is when you're using the borrowing to invest at a rate that's higher than you're borrowing at. So, for example, if you borrow money at 10% and you can invest it into a stock that has a very high probability of getting 20% over the year, or a real estate property that's generating residential real estate income that's going to generate you 15% with, you have the tenant and you're good for the year, then do that all day long, because 15 minus 10 is positive 5%.
Yeah.
But most people will use credit cards or other loans to invest in material things like a vacation, like a car.
Yeah.
And so that is generally, now you can say that's priceless in some ways if you're going to Tahiti for 10 days. But I will say that's not the best use of credit, because you might have to pay that off for years afterwards at 20 or 30%, and you're not getting any positive return on the incremental over that 20 or 30%.
Yeah. You buy something on sale for 20% off, but you pay 50% more for it over time. Did you really get a deal? Probably not. That's not a deal.
Right. And nowadays, there's this whole craze of buy now, pay later.
Yeah.
BNPL. And there's these companies that are just doing that, and those rates are much, much higher than 20 or 30%. If you really dive into it, let's say, oh, the fee is only $5 a month. But if you bought something for $100 and it's only $5 a month, over the year, you're paying $60. That's 60% interest rate. 60. And they're saying it's just a $5 fee a month.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Wow. And I think as dads, we really need to model proper financial planning and thought towards the future. I think we have to set the example, even when they're young, like super young, on how we show up in the world. Because I know, like, I like to play guitar, so I have many, my wife says, too many guitars. So that was investments I made before I met her. Those are things that I brought into the relationship. Those are my babies, my little toys. But I think as men, as husbands and fathers, we also need to be careful that we don't demonstrate bad financial examples to our kids. Any thoughts on how we as dads can model that really good behavior, similar to what you did with your daughters and the sweatshirts, for example?
Savings and investing is really important as well. So I teach my clients, pay yourself first.
Okay.
So that means every month put money away. It's not into a retirement savings plan, but it's a separate account. And you can talk to your kids about this. I'm paying myself first each month and putting it away. And eventually that should go to investing. Now, of course, as being a former professional investor, I've been talking about my kids about stocks since they were 5 and 3. I got them, make it a game. I got them to pick 3 letters and saw how long it would take for them to pick a financial stock. I knew pretty much all financial stocks. Well, that's not true. I probably knew about 800 financial stocks in the US. There's a lot more than that. And so I would have them pick 3 letters and see if I could recognize that it was a financial stock. And if it was, they say, oh, you picked this, let's see how it does in the next month or 3 months. And it was just a little bit game but they heard about stocks when they were quite young, and that it was an investment vehicle to make money and to put money into investment vehicles to compound your money over time. And I explained to them how I put money away for their university, for their college, and that money went up 4 times over 20 years. And so
Right.
I was able to fully fund both of their college undergraduate education by that compounding. Now, I didn't save for the full amount of college. I saved
Mm.
one quarter, 25%, and it went up four
Wow.
times.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that's the power of compound interest. So they understand that just by hearing those words. Dad, how much did you put in to save for my college? I just
Yeah.
put in X and it went up 4 times.
And that's sort of my big fear, I think, when I hear kids graduating from university and college and they have this massive debt load because their family did not plan, they didn't plan, or they work really hard as a job while they're in school. And it's a struggle just to meet that financial requirements of education. So anything we can do to plan ahead of time is going to make things easier for them. What other financial lessons do you think your kids had to learn either through you or on their own?
That's a good question. I think, spending more than they make is a big one. I actually teach, believe it or not, to splurge once a month
Really?
because a lot of the people I teach are savers, protectionists. In fact, in Infinite Love and Money, Molly Singh and I created 7 money personality types. And a lot of the people who come to me who need my help are protectionists, the P. So the acronym is Sugar Pie, and S stands for splurgers, U for unconscious, G for greedy, A for the accumulators or savers, P for protectionist, I for investor, and E for egotist. But
Mm,
there's a lot of people who come to me are the P, the protectionist. And what that means is they're putting the money under the mattress. They're not even giving it to the bank to invest. They're so
right.
scared. And so to shift that, I teach people that money is energy. And so by putting it out there, it will flow back to you. By you doing this, you're hoarding. If you're a saver, protectionist, the A, the accumulator, or P, the protectionist, you're not creating any flow. So that's just
Yeah.
as bad as being a splurger all the time. So you need a bit of both. You need balance. And so when I hear that, I have people fill out the survey. We have a survey that it's just circling adjectives. You can get it done in 5 minutes. And then we find out what they are. And if I hear protectionist or accumulator, I say, my advice to you is to splurge once a month. And I'm not saying spend thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I'm saying do something for yourself, not for others, but for yourself, because you're putting money out. And I'm also not saying give. Rule number 6 in the 9 money rules is giving. I'm not saying give. I'm saying splurge on yourself. Find something you enjoy. One of my clients last month said, I like a bottle of scotch. I said, okay, how much? And he told me, and I said, great. I said, when's the last time you bought one? He said, I don't buy scotch. Like, I love it, but I would never spend that because he's a protectionist,
Mm,
right? He would just never spoil. I'm like, please, this month, like pick something this month and splurge. And he feels
interesting.
so much better. He feels happier. And that's another thing is the vibrations of money, right? If you're vibrating down here in worry and fear,
Yeah.
that's a very different vibration than happiness and joy and appreciation, gratitude, which is the same vibration as abundance and prosperity.
Yeah.
So you can't get there from here. So feeling better, feeling happier is creating more abundance and prosperity in your life.
That whole delayed gratification where we have to wait till we're 65 to enjoy the fruits of our labor and all that. It feels like once you even get close to the age 65, that somebody just picks the finish line up and moves it another 5 to 10 years away. And you're like, come on, I was so close. I was looking forward to this. And we get older and older and older, and we don't have the bandwidth or time to enjoy all of this hard work that we put into raising our family, creating a safety net for our kids, and example for our children financially. So I like the idea of splurging. It's kind of like the oxygen mask in the airplane, right? Take care
Put
of yourself
yourself up
first,
first. Yeah.
right? Do that a little bit. Don't go to extremes,
Right.
obviously, but you should have some sort of reward for all the effort you're putting into your journey as a dad.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good thing. And obviously was in a different financial situation than a lot of people. But when my daughters were growing up, I said, I love to travel. I'm just gonna, and as a divorced dad, I wanted them, and single dad, I wanted them to see a little bit of the U.S. With me. And I love to travel, so I wanted to share a passion of mine with them. And so we traveled a fair amount. I've now visited all 50 states, and I took I took them to see a lot of those in the last 10 years, 12 years.
It's amazing. Okay, so for the dads, the single dads listening who also are balancing career, family life, all of that, connection with your kids is really important. What kind of things would you say to encourage a single dad listening to our conversation on how to build really strong relationships with your kids? What worked for you?
So we talked a little bit about the 5 love languages. I think it's do the test, because 10, 12 years ago when I did the test, I thought, and I think a lot of people think this way, that what their love language is the same as their daughters or sons. And it's not true. And I felt really bad when I found out, because my oldest daughter, Lauren, she has the same top 2 love languages as I do: physical touch and words of affirmation. So whenever I gave her a hug or a kiss or said, wow, that was amazing, she felt loved. Now, my other daughter, Morgan, her top 2 love languages are acts of service and then gifts. And so I was giving her lots of hugs and kisses and saying, you're amazing. And she wasn't feeling it. So I felt really bad. In fact, on her birthday last year, I had a conversation with her about, how did you feel about the amount of love I was giving to you, for the first 8, 10 years of your life? Because I now realize that I wasn't giving her the love that she needed in the language that she wanted it and felt loved by me. And she said, no, she did, but now she feels even more, because I go out of my way to give gifts for no reason. I go out of my way to give her acts of service, maybe picking her up, or, I used to, when they were living here, make her bed in the morning, do things for her that she would recognize as an act of service for her.
Yeah, that assumption that all your kids are the same, they all are going to respond the same way, or identify with the things they need exactly the same way because they're your kids. It's not true. They're all different, right?
And the other one is quality time. And some kids may just want your time. And that's a difficult one, as as a single dad. I was divorced when they were 3.5 and 1.5. And, we talked about this before we got on the call, that it's a really big challenge for a lot of dads to balance the time you have with your kids and work. And I was working at a very stressful job for many years while they were growing up. And I had to make decisions many days. Am I going to stay and try to make a little bit more money for them, now for myself, but also for them, so that I could fund their college, so that I could fund everything for them? Or do I be present with them and go home early? And, for the first few years after the divorce, it was, I will say, I maybe didn't make the best choice. And I know now that being with them, because the time is so limited, that has to be the number one choice. Being present, being with them as much as possible. Now, Lauren's in college, and I see her for winter break, and I see her for maybe a day on spring break and a little bit over the summer, but most of the year she's not around. So, really enjoy. One recommendation I would have is be present and enjoy the time you have with them. I see married couples. I saw one a few weeks ago. I was picking up dinner for Morgan for us to eat together. She had just had surgery, so we were eating together at Mom's house. And I was picking up dinner at this restaurant. I saw the parents and 2 kids. They were all on their devices, no one talking at dinner. And I was thinking, oh man, like, if I didn't want to impose or infringe on, but I see this all the time. We're on the train commuting into Manhattan to see a show or something, and you see the mom with the kid or the parents with the kids, and they're just not present. And, we're talking, I'm talking, because I'm not with them that much. I want to be present with them and really acknowledge and maybe teach them a little bit too, because I'm a coach, to teach them a little
Yeah.
bit about life, a little bit about money, a little bit about different things. But so many people, I remember when we were, when my kids were growing up, a buddy of mine, very gracious and very kind, would have me and my daughters over to his pool, or I would invite them to my pool, and he would be on his device or reading, and his wife would be in the pool with me and my
Yeah.
kids and his daughter.
Yeah. He's just not
Just
part
not
of it.
present.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he had work to do. And I know I was there in 2008, 2009. I was the same. And I understand the pressure of making money for his daughter, for his wife who wasn't working and all that. But I also understand that, like, that time he can't get back.
One of the other dads I've been talking to recently really challenged me lately, Joel. He was saying that despite our best efforts and all of our attempts, our legacy is going to be written by someone else. That someone else is going to decide who was Joel, who was Dave. That's going to be written by someone long after we have any input. So we may think that we are the best dad in the world. We may think that we're doing a great job, but someone else might have a different opinion. So as far as legacy for your girls, what are you hoping that they see in you as a dad as they look back over, all the years and everything? What are you hoping that they say about you to their friends and to family? What is the legacy that you're hoping to leave for your girls?
Great question. So I would say what I just said, being present. He was present. He was with us. He valued our time with him. I still to this day feel I would love to have more time with them.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The other, so being present, and then kindness. Just being kind to others. If I can demonstrate that in front of them so that they can continue that legacy on, I think that's the most important thing. Showing loving kindness to others is just so critical in the world these days. And if you can be example to others and they can pass that down, that's so important.
Yeah, I think for me, the same thing. I resonate with the time. I think my kids can probably name 5 gifts in their entire life that they can remember that I've ever given them for birthdays or Christmas or whatever holiday season. I think there's about 5 things possibly they can maybe think and remind themselves of. But the one thing that they treasure the most is the time they've had with me, because that can't be replaced, right? That's something you can't buy. And I think even when my children were really tiny, they didn't even know what a birthday was because they were so small, but we lavished them with gifts and the excitement to give and, be that type of dad that gives to your kids. I don't think they're going to remember the presents, the unwrapping of the gifts. They're going to remember you and climbing up on your lap and hearing a story or tucking them into bed. Your acts of love and service to your kids are going to way outlast any type of gift that comes from a store purchased with a credit card. I think that's the one gift that we can give to them that they remember the most. So I'm glad that you kind of zeroed in on that as well as a dad. Any other things that we can encourage a dad with, Joel, that we haven't really mentioned so far?
I think we've really hit on the most important points.
I love it. So Joel, you have many books that you have out in the world. You love coaching and you love helping people. So as far as your books, let's highlight those. I'm going to have you come on my Living the Next Chapter podcast so we can get deeper into what you've been writing. But as far as resources for a dad out there that might want to reach out to you and get in touch with you or buy your books, which could then help them and their family, give us some information as far as where we can find your books and contact you, Joel.
Yeah, so Salomon.com. It's SALEURMOR.com, Lauren and Morgan. And so you can find the books there. You can find all my courses and membership and a link to 30 minutes free of prosperity coaching. I give everybody in the world 30 minutes free. My YouTube channel is on there with over 700 videos for free. Over 700 videos for free.
Wow.
So you can binge on my YouTube channel. And of course the books are on Amazon too, but if you want to buy them from my website, I'll personally sign them over. So that would, that's a little bit of benefit, and it's a little bit less expensive too. but they're all on Audible as well. Or, actually, not the first one, but the 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use and Infinite Love of Money are both on Audible. So if you prefer to listen and hear my voice, you got that too.
There you go. Awesome. Joel, it's so great to have you here on Dad Space. Looking forward to having you again. Also come back and join me on Living the Next Chapter. And I just love your insight and the money smarts that you bring to the table. You're a great resource, and I would love to have you back in the future and celebrate more as we share our dad journey together. Thank you for doing this, Joel.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave. It's a real pleasure. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Everybody, all the information's in the show notes to connect with Joel. And if you have money questions and you want a great person in your corner to help you plan out and do money wisely, reach out to Joel. He's a great contact, and all of his information will be in the show notes. Again, Joel, thank you so much. Hey, thanks for listening to Dad Space today. I'm so thankful that you were here for this episode. If you like the show, please let another dad know. Hey, that kind of rhymed. Anyways, share the episode out with somebody in your circle who would love Dad Space. That means so much to us here for our guests who donate their time to be on the show, and we just want to see this grow. So, again, another rhyme. Oh, wow. Anyhow, I think I need to write a song or something. Thank you for being here with Dad Space. And again, looking forward to the next episode. Look forward to having you here again with us. And if we can help you in any way, if you have a great guest idea for the show, a topic that you would love us to cover, we would love to do that here on Dad Space. So thanks for listening, and thanks for being part of the community. And to you, Dad, thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing Dad Space. Catch you on the next one. Take care.